Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. You all know how it goes by now, I'm sure. For those of you watching for the first time, thank you for checking out NoDQ&A video. Got your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift using the hashtag PAIV. Let's get started today. Got a lot of questions to get through. First one today comes from Robert. How about AJ Styles versus John Cena versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 33? A triple threat match. Traditionally, I'm not a fan of doing triple threat matches at WrestleMania just because I think one-on-one matches have more value and you can market those matches better. Now, if AJ Styles does not have a big, high-profile match for WrestleMania and he gets lost in the shuffle, then I would make more of an argument for having a triple threat match at WrestleMania. And if Undertaker wants to do a match at WrestleMania, WWE wants him to do a match, but he's limited, then that would be another possible reason to insert AJ into the match so there's less workload for the Undertaker. I'm not sure what's going to happen at this point with AJ. I mean, I'm expecting him to lose the title at the Royal Rumble, whether it's against Undertaker or Cena or even Shawn Michaels, if that's even a possibility. But I'm not expecting AJ to go into WrestleMania as the WWE Champion. The question is, will WWE have a big match for AJ planned out for WrestleMania? He really should be in a main event match. One of the top 3 matches, I want to say, at WrestleMania. He definitely should be in the mix at the top. So if you cannot figure out something for him, then maybe a triple threat would be your best option. Who knows? This next one comes from hashtag Banks Club. If CM Punk came back for one match only, who would you want it to be against and why? I would pick Kevin Owens. I know some people might shake their heads at this, but I would go with Triple H. If it was one match, if CM Punk was coming back and doing one match, I would put him in there with Triple H because everyone, or I should say the internet fans, a lot of fans know that CM Punk was unhappy with the company and that's why he left for real. So why not take advantage of that, the fact that Triple H left, CM Punk left with hard feelings towards WWE and Triple H in particular. I mean, we all remember the pipe bomb promo when CM Punk referenced the doofus son-in-law, Triple H, of course. It makes sense. It makes sense to have CM Punk come back and go after the guy in charge and the guy who's going to be taking over once Vince is out of the picture, and that's Triple H. I think that would be your best marquee match to do, and I think that would generate the most interest from your hardcore wrestling fans. Would it have a lot of casual appeal? I don't know how much casual appeal it would have, but I think CM Punk coming back would definitely get a lot of fans, and especially a lot of lapsed fans, interested in tuning back into WWE to see how things play out. So I would go with Triple H versus CM Punk. I would definitely take advantage of the real life hard feelings and put that into a storyline. This one comes from Hannibal. Hey Aaron, what do you think about the UK title and how do you think WWE should book it? Keep going and good luck. Well, thank you for that. I got a ton of questions. I mean, literally a dozen different people asked me, what do you think about the UK title, and various questions of that nature. Here's my take on it. I'm not that interested, personally. I mean, I think it's great what WWE's doing these different types of tournaments for the network and trying to bring in more talent from other parts of the world. I'm all for that, but to be perfectly 100% honest, I mean, it's not that big of a deal to me. Somebody asked me, actually a few people asked, what do I think about WWE introducing yet another title? Not really a fan of it. What, are they going to do this for every country now? I mean, is the UK going to get special treatment? What about Italy or France or Kazakhstan? I mean, what about these other countries? I don't really think it's that big of a deal, but WWE is trying to do different things. You know, with the Cruiserweight Classic, it was a cult hit. I wouldn't say it was a massive mainstream hit or anything like that, but it did have a very positive reaction from the fans that did watch it, and Triple H is trying to do other things, so this is the next step, you know, and they'll probably do a women's tournament, and they'll do different types of shows in different countries, but I'm just not a huge fan of it at this point. I mean, I saw the wrestlers, I'm not really familiar with any of them, and I guess I'll check it out at some point, just like I did with the Cruiserweight Classic, but, you know, I already have enough wrestling to watch on my plate as it is, so I'm not really all that excited about even more at this point. This one comes from R. Hey Aaron, out of the 3 Shield members, who would benefit from a reunion the most? I would say Dean Ambrose. He's lost his edge lately, in my opinion. I think putting those 3 guys together back as the Shield is not really necessary, and I do not feel it's necessary for Ambrose. I feel Ambrose is just a guy that needs a little change in direction. I've been saying this for months now, and I'll probably be a skeleton waiting for the day that Dean Ambrose turns heel. I think it should have been done a long time ago. I feel the character is stale. I feel that that would change things up and give his character a new lease on life. I would do that before I would reunite the Shield. I think that that would be very desperate to reunite those guys. I mean, if anything, I think it would benefit Reigns the most of the 3 guys. I mean, I think Roman Reigns, I saw that clip at Tribute to the Troops with Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins, and the big pop it got. Maybe that'll convince WWE, hey, we need to reunite the Shield so Roman Reigns can be cheered by association. I mean, that is the guy I think would benefit the most from a Shield reunion, is Roman Reigns. Maybe even Seth Rollins, you know, if he doesn't really catch fire in the next couple months. But Ambrose of the 3 guys, I think he's doing well on SmackDown. I just think they need to change things up with his character. With Rollins, you know, he should have been a babyface, but they screwed things up with him. And the question is, can they salvage that at this point? And with Reigns, it's clear the babyface run isn't working to the degree WWE wants it to work. So what do you do with a guy? Do you turn him heel, or do you keep finding desperate ways? Do you reunite the Shield so Roman Reigns can get a babyface pop from the fans? I don't know. Got this one here from Boogeyman79. Hey Aaron, I'm a big fan. What do you think of the idea of an NXT invasion on either Raw or SmackDown? The problem with that is NXT is a developmental league, and if you have them invade, if you're going to do a successful invasion angle, you have to have the invaders dominate the main roster. But if you do that, then it doesn't really make sense, because NXT is supposed to be developmental talent. So the idea is that these guys are not quite there yet to go head to head with the main roster guys. I mean, on paper, that's what it should be. I mean, it's not really. I mean, Samoa Joe and Nakamura, I mean, these guys have been around, and anybody that watches these guys wrestle, you're not going to look at them as rookies. So the whole concept is silly. But WWE's not going to do it because NXT is the developmental league, and if you did that, then you really don't have a developmental league anymore. So that kind of just gets rid of the whole idea if you do that. I'd rather, if you were going to do an invasion, I would have a complete outside group come in and have it be a full-fledged invasion. You know, I talked about months ago, like, they could have done something with Anderson and Gallows when they came in and debuted. They could have been like a modern-day Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, these outsiders from Japan that had not officially signed WWE contracts, and you could have done some sort of storyline like that. That is what I would do if I was going to do a full-fledged invasion angle. I would have guys come in that are completely outside of the WWE universe, you know, whatever you want to call it, not have them be part of NXT or something like that. This one comes from Iper. Do you think Triple H is recreating some sort of territory days so that he can bring already built stars to NXT? I do think that is part of the idea, you know, with the UK, this whole title tournament and expanding into other countries and trying to bring in more talent. It is like WWE trying to control not just the United States, but the entire world, because it is World Wrestling Entertainment. And, you know, bringing in these guys from the indie promotions across the world and turning them into WWE superstars and picking up the best guys. So it is kind of like WWE's version of the territories, and I think Triple H might have that attitude, thinking that he can sign guys that have already been somewhat established in other brands. You know, we're seeing that with TNA now. WWE picking up some TNA talent when 5 years ago they wouldn't even consider picking up TNA guys, and now they're doing that. So they are more open to signing guys that have made their names elsewhere. And you know, Vince is the kind of guy that likes to sign somebody and build them from scratch and make his own superstar. And now we're seeing it change a little bit with Triple H, with guys coming in that have already been big stars elsewhere. You know, guys like Shinsuke Nakamura and some of the other guys from the UK that are being brought in now. So yeah, it is a little bit like a territory system. This one comes from Slow Motion. You give a guy 100 tries to hit a shot. He's bound to make a few. That being said, has Triple H always been overrated / overbooked? As a wrestler, I would say no. I think Triple H busted his ass for many years, you know, going back to 95 when he was doing the Blue Blood gimmick and taking bumps in a hog pen against Henry Godwin. I mean, when I watched that back in the day, I thought, you know, this Triple H guy, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, you know, he's sacrificing himself. He's rolling around in mud to try and entertain people. And then later on, when he was doing the stuff with Shawn, you know, he was starting to come into his own. And then the ladder match with The Rock at SummerSlam, I mean, that was a great ladder match. So people could say, well, Triple H became a big star because of Stephanie. And I disagree with that. He was becoming a major star well before Stephanie got into the picture. He was already WWE champion before Stephanie got into the picture. So I would not say he was overrated in that regard. I would say he's been overrated in more recent years as far as his WrestleMania appearances, as I addressed. And by the way, I did forget to mention the match with Daniel Bryan, which was great, but you know, it was Daniel Bryan. On the other hand, it takes two to tango. So Triple H, he knows what he's doing in the ring. He knows what he's doing, working the company, and being in that role. And as far as being the guy in charge of NXT, you know, he knows how to excite the hardcore fan base. He knows what to do. He's a pro. Triple H knows how to get a reaction from the fans, and he knows what he's doing with NXT. He knows the right show to produce for that audience. He knows what they want, and he gives it to them. And, you know, for the most part, Triple H and Vince, they know what they're doing with the casual fans. Sometimes they don't, but for the most part, they're still making money. And at the end of the day, they still are generating big business. And WrestleMania is going to draw another 70,000 people, and they're going to make tons of money WrestleMania weekend. So, you know, they're doing all right. This one comes from Ryan Is War. Should they have done Sasha versus Charlotte as a submission match? They already have done an Ironman match. It makes more sense. I think that's a little boring, to be honest. I think it would have been better if both of them had more established submission moves. Yes, they each have their finisher as a submission move, but I think to have a really good submission match, you need to have a wrestler who is very much submission based. I mean, when you have somebody like Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit in a submission match, I mean, those two guys are perfect for that type of match. You know, Kurt Angle does tons of moves like that. I just think you're more limited with doing a submission match. I think by doing a regular Iron Man / Iron Woman match, you know, you can do pinfalls, you can do submissions, you can do countouts and DQs. There's a lot more you can do to keep it exciting for 30 minutes. So I'm definitely a fan of doing what they're doing rather than doing a submission match. This one comes from Austin West. Don't remember the brands plugging each other on other shows and special events in the last brand split. He's asking me if I remember. Why are they doing it now? I seem to recall WWE did promote shows, like for Raw, they would promote Smackdown shows and vice versa. I seem to remember them still doing that during the first brand extension. And nothing's really going to change. I mean, as far as WWE is concerned, it's all part of the WWE umbrella, so they can advertise the other shows. You know, it's Vince's call. You know, they could always say that Vince wants his Smackdown show advertised on Raw and vice versa. He's trying to make money. The company's trying to make money. But yeah, I would try to minimize it as much as possible and not mention Raw too much or mention SmackDown too much. I mean, we all know it's not really a real battle between the two brands. I mean, that has been established, and I'm not sure if much can be done to change that. Would not plugging the other pay-per-view help? I mean, maybe it would a little bit, but at this point, I don't really think it matters all that much, quite frankly. Next one from Daniel Lynch. Would you like to see Sami Zayn do an Ironman thing at the Rumble, entering at number 1 and being in the Final 4? I think that would be a good way to go with Sami, to have him be in the Rumble for a long period of time. Although, if I was going to do that with somebody this year, I would do it with Goldberg. I would have Goldberg come in at like number 1 and eliminate like the first 10 guys that are a bunch of jabronis, and then you have Brock come in, and then Brock can eliminate Goldberg, and then whoever eliminates Brock, can get a rub from that. Maybe you could have Sami Zayn eliminate Brock Lesnar and, be like a repeat of Maven and The Undertaker from 2002. You could do something like that. But yeah, it would be nice for somebody like Sami Zayn to have a long run in the Royal Rumble, kind of like a Rey Mysterio in 2006, the smaller guy overcoming the odds and having a good showing in the Rumble. So yeah, I think, he doesn't necessarily have to be number 2, but you can put him in there like 12, 13, 14 and have him last till the end. I think that would be a good way to showcase Sami Zayn and elevate him a little bit. This one comes from @24RedLife. With WWE stacked with talent, how can they use them? Make more shows or just release some lower cards? Really? Did you just suggest more shows? No more shows, please. I said this earlier about the UK shows. There's enough WWE programming. There's too much. 3 hours of Raw is too much. Plus Talking Smack and the pay-per-views and all these original shows. And then the UK shows and the Cruiserweight shows. It's just overkill. So, I hate to say it, but you need to cut back on a little bit of talent if guys are getting lost in the shuffle. I'm not a fan of more shows. I'm burned out on watching WWE programming, and that's part of the reason why I don't follow indie promotions at this stage of the game. It's just too much, and I have my breaking point. So I follow what is core to my business, and that's WWE's main programming, Raw, SmackDown, and the pay-per-views, and I try to squeeze in the Cruiserweight stuff and maybe a few of the original shows just to keep up on it, but no more shows. Please, no more shows. Next one from Glorious D. Breezy. Do you think it would be wise for PWG, ROH, TNA, and New Japan to join forces to try and break down WWE? Why or why not? Really? You really think they even would have a shot of doing that? First of all, I don't think you would get the cooperation. I mean, PWG is very happy with their current business model, doing the shows once a month or every other month in Reseda, California in the Legion Hall. They're happy doing that and selling the DVDs. That's what they've been doing for the past 13, 14 years now, and I doubt they're interested in trying to take down WWE. I don't think they're interested. I don't think ROH is interested. TNA tried and they failed, and you could combine TNA, ROH, and PWG, and they still wouldn't even be on the radar to even compete with WWE. Let's face it, it's not going to happen. And New Japan, they have their business. They're doing fine. They're across the world. Why would they get involved at trying to take down WWE? So, the idea of that is ridiculous. And there's no promotion strong enough. And even if you combine them, none of them would even be able to cooperate and build something big enough to challenge WWE. Just not going to happen. This one comes from Steampunk Selt. Do you think all the SmackDown hot acts will be drafted to Raw eventually, or will the shows be allowed to remain equal? Time will tell. I mean, looking at it historically, it seemed like any time somebody got big on SmackDown, they were drafted to Raw. So we'll see if it's the same pattern with this brand extension where we see AJ Styles being drafted to Raw and all the guys that are doing well on SmackDown going to Raw. I would like to see it stay balanced. I think that it would be in the best interest of the draft to keep it balanced and keep SmackDown as an important show. I think as long as SmackDown's live, there will be that focus on SmackDown, and they will try to make SmackDown as close to an equal as Raw as possible, but then egos could also get involved. And it's funny because on NoDQ.com, I've been doing the polls every week, which show is better, and Raw has not won since the show where Kevin Owens won the Universal title with Triple H's help, and that was the end of August. So there could be egos and politics involved, and somebody might make the push, hey, we got to make Raw bigger. Raw's starting to fall flat, and it's our flagship show. So you never know. It's hard to say right now what they're going to do, but I would say anything's possible at this point. Got this one from Push Pal. Grand Metalik came second in the Cruiserweight Classic, and now he is not even featured in any matches. Your thoughts? Yeah, I did notice that. I noticed when they did the first episode of the Cruiserweight Classic, they had about a dozen guys come out on stage, but we've only seen maybe 4 or 5 of the guys showcased, and several guys have already gotten lost in the shuffle. And this goes back to that earlier question about what do you do? Do you add more programming? Do you add a second hour for the Cruiserweights? Or do you just cut some guys? I mean, yeah, I would like to see more of the guys focused. If you're going to bother having them there at all, then you might as well showcase them. And yeah, it does take time. I mean, it's definitely a situation where WWE needs to develop some of the Cruiserweights, but I don't understand why they had to show like 12 guys and then you only use 5 of them. So you might as well just say, hey, we're going to start off with 4 or 5 guys, and then once they're established, we'll bring in another 4 or 5 guys and add them to the mix. So I don't know. I mean, just right now, I don't feel like the Cruiserweight division's catching on. And for all we know, we may never see Grand Metalik be pushed in any capacity in WWE, or some of the other guys that haven't been used at all. It's hard to say right now. That'll do it for No DQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest regarding Roadblock, and I will see you guys next time.